Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? Ted?
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Player Display. It is the most wonderful time of the year, which for me means I got a whole box of pre-orders from Big Bad Toy Store. So here we are at a wall of pre-orders that we will be having a look at throughout the week. I'm not sure how soon I'm going to spit them out, maybe day to day, back to back, I'm not sure. But I have an idea of what order I want to do everything in. But just to show them off first, I have the NECA Clothed Megan, along with the COO Model Toys Standard Bearer Roman figure, along with the Gremlins 40th Anniversary Evolution of the Gremlin 3-pack. So today we are going to start with the Roman Standard Bearer, because this is made by COO Model Toy, and we have actually reviewed one of their products before on this channel, and for me personally, it was the most divisive split figure I've ever handled. But this is a much more superior figure, so we'll talk about that when we do. Let me just clean up a little bit first here. Here we are down to the ground again with a simple little box, and the reason why I got this figure is, first of all, it looks really cool, and it was on sale compared to the other, I believe, 3 figures in this line, which were, I guess I'll disclose it, are each about $100, but this guy was, for some reason, was discounted to $60, making him basically the same cost as a deluxe Mythic Legions, which in my eyes is a pretty good deal. And the second thing I wanted to mention is one thing that makes him different from the COO Model Snow-Capped Ice Wolf that we reviewed before is this is a fully clothed figure, basically a small Hot Toys. The reason why I was a little disappointed with the COO Model Wolf, who we'll look at a little bit later on, and who was highly customized, by the way, he had some soft goods too, but they're very raggedy, and ultimately the figure looks better without it. As for the figure itself, it was a deluxe version, so it also came with a fancy base and everything, but even on sale, the price was too high. That's the ultimate conclusion that I came to. Then after that, I did a whole lot of customizing. I think I've shown them off before with all the custom paint. But anyways, that made me all the more curious about the line and what they'd be doing in the future, which takes us here. You know how much I love medieval stuff, gladiators, knights, I'll take it all. I mean, whatever my wallet can allow. But this looks like a really interesting one, and it seems like there's no actual reviews on YouTube. I mean, I think COO Model posted a video, but it was more montage style. There was no talking, you know? So I figured we'd do an actual review right here. Not sure how long this is going to take, but it's a really nice looking figure, so the longer it takes, the more information I have to give you. So let's get started. Firstly, we have the box over here. We have Standard Bearer Roman 1/12 scale collectible figure, number RO02. So I guess this is the second in this Roman assortment. So that's pretty neat. I'm not totally sure what a bearer is. If I had to guess, it's anyone who's carrying this big ol' ornate staff thing. So that's pretty neat. Then you have an image of the figure himself, fully geared out with an awesome lion on his head. That's kind of the reason why I wanted this figure. Down here we got the COO Model Toys logo. Over here we have HH model. I'm not sure what the relationship is there, but anyhow, if we pan out on the side, pretty much the same stuff, just graphics are sorted out in a different order. Same thing over here. Got a barcode, which is meaningless to me. Up to the back, okay, you got the figure and his assortment of accessories, which are many, so we will have a closer look at those when we open the box. But I actually have a new friend, for those of you who have not watched those 2 weird Beyblade videos I did before. We usually open boxes with our friend Betsy. She is on vacation today, because today I actually wanted to bring out her new baby brother, who is actually a lot bigger than her. Over here, we have my new friend, who is fittingly medieval, Harold. So let's give this guy a try. Let's go up to the top and cut out the tape right there. Yeah, this knife is actually quite dull. I feel like I might have been ripped off, but it's big and it's beautiful, so that's enough for me. Let's do a full unboxing, because this is a unique brand, which I did not expect we'd ever be revisiting. Let's slide it out. And here is the figure. Very nice presentation, kind of similar to Dynamic Action Heroes, if you had to ask me. Let's lean it right over there. Nothing else in the box. Let's drop that to the side. And yeah, so over here we have, from left to right, I guess, we have what I call the I'm a very important man stick. I don't know what this thing's called or what anything on it means, but if you're holding this, you're probably an important dude back in the day. Over here we have, I believe that's Gladius, I could be wrong, but it's a really nice looking sword. You have the main figure, and you can see all the beautiful soft goods that are in there. Oh, hell, let's zoom in there. And we also have a really good head sculpt. It's not meant to be anyone in particular. I mean, I guess it could be Maximus Decimus Meridius if you really wanted him to. Got some chainmail, a little knife there, some leather straps, but then again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Speaking of head, we also have his lion headdress. I guess back then it was kind of tradition where if you killed anything, then put it on your head and you'll look good. Apparently they were right, thousands of years later. Got some alternate hands and a big old shield. Personally, I really like this assortment. I actually don't like when a figure has too many accessories because then you can't really display all of them together and you can't store them all on the same person. So this is a nice limited assortment. I'm really liking this. And, oh, one last thing. There is a figure stand in the back as well. I believe that is the exact same basic stand that came with the wolf that we talked about before. That dude, again, he was a deluxe version. So he had the basic stand and then the snowy stand, which I have repainted. Well, again, we'll look at that later. But for now, let me pop this guy open and we'll see what's going on. Alright, here's our Roman standard bearer. I haven't done much with him yet. All I did was unpack him and I lightly articulated the arms, but beyond that, that's about it. First impression straight away. He is light as a feather. Very throwable. Lighter than Marvel Legends even. There's not a lot of weight to this guy, which actually surprises me because I think in the description on BBTS it said that he has metal elements in there. We'll have to poke and prod at him a little bit to see where that would be. My first guess is probably on the weaponry and on the shin guards over here. But another thing I wanted to mention immediately, is this guy worth the standard price tag of $100? No, he's not. I'll say it straight away. Yeah, COO model, they seem to overestimate the quality of their figures. Granted, they always look good, but there's always this lightness to them, you know, and while the accessories are really well done, and like the wolf, this is probably all done by hand, I don't know, I feel like there should be an extra something that gives it a kick to give it more of that $100 value. Again, accessory-wise, I think he's fully decked out. I don't think he needs any more than what he comes with, but again, he's so light, and so are the materials by proxy. So I feel like if he felt heavier, if the materials were denser, then I'd be a little happier with that $100 price tag. But once again, I got him at like a 40% discount. So at 60, I think he is totally okay. But anyways, all that being said, let's have a closer look at this, not gladiator, just a standard Roman soldier. I'm not too sure what standard bearer does. As much as I love history, I don't know everything. So if anyone like really knows their Roman history, let me know what a standard bearer is in the comments and help to inform everyone else, because that would be good to know. But anyways, actually, this guy's so small, I gotta pull him in a little bit more. He is technically in the 1/12 scale. We'll do size comparisons later and see how he stacks up against some other brands that we've seen. But anyhow, starting off at the head sculpt, again, not meant to be anybody in particular. I mean, who knows, this could have been one of the devs, and they've scanned his head and dropped it on the figure. But regardless, whoever this is, he looks like he could put up a fight. He looks pretty determined, and it's just a really nice head sculpt. And the nice thing is, I suspect you could pop the head off and maybe swap it with somebody else who you do know, or Marvel Legends head sculpt, or custom head sculpt, so you could probably mix and change, especially since this guy was on sale. Then I suspect if you want to take anything off, put extra stuff on, it wouldn't be too difficult. But back to the head sculpt, beautifully painted, impeccably done. I'm not sure if it's printed or hand done or what. It kind of reminds me of those third-party head sculpts I've gotten for some McFarlane figures. So maybe that's where most of the value of this figure is coming from, the head sculpt. And it is beautiful. I mean, you can see his blue eyes in there, you got the eyebrows, really nice beard, and some good shading on the cheeks even. Very subtle, but it does help set it apart from like a standard Marvel Legends early head sculpt or Star Wars Black series, like before they had photoreal, where everything was very clearly just painted on. They went through a process here, and it does look good. The hair is also really nice. I like how it's asymmetrical and it's painted on very crisply and it's not bleeding down onto the flesh, which I notice is a problem with a lot of more accessible lines as opposed to this imported one. And going around, just an excellent looking sculpt. And I like that it's generic. I like how it's no one in particular, so he could just be in the background. He could be your main hero if you want. You can give him a name. Thomas, I don't know. I don't know what people were named back then. They definitely had cooler names then than they do now, we'll say that much. But anyhow, moving on down, let's get to the torso area. And I am at a loss for words, not because I think it's, whoa, so amazing, which it is, but also I just don't know what anything here is called. So we're just going to have to do our best here. But it looks like we have several accents of gold, which are beautifully done. Again, very light. I'm not seeing so far any metal elements. Well, maybe these studs, no, the studs are probably plastic right there. And yeah, it's got this neat chainmail cloth piece under here. Well, it's meant to simulate chainmail. I don't think chains can ever be that tiny. If they did that, then it would absolutely be worth $100. But no, this is like a rough cloth meshy texture, which I still think is pretty neat. And you can see that it's lined with a little bit of pleather. I doubt it's real leather. If it was, I would also boost the value of the figure considerably. I also have this little dagger over here. I'm sure there's a more specific name for it, and I'm sure you can remove it. Let's have a peek. A little early look at accessories here. Takes a little wobbling, but here it is. Actually, let's have a close look at it and a little bit of a poke test, because it might be metal. I'm not sure. I don't think so. It felt a little cold coming out of the sheath, but no, I think this is just standard plastic. I could be wrong about that, but let's stick that back on in. Really tiny, probably a last resort weapon, if anything. Off to the sleeves, you could tell that there is a distinct red undershirt. You can also notice it poking up around the neck here, and it's a little weird. It's kind of separated from the main shirt down there. It kind of goes around the neck. It connects at the back, but then it gaps up, so you see the flesh under it, and there's a little pocket, so that's a bit odd, but I don't know, maybe I'll poke and prod at that with some tweezers and a toothpick or something like that to lie it down a little nicer later on. Now, my least favorite thing about this figure so far, which is something that can be fixed, is the arms. I imagine the articulation's not too bad. I haven't gone all the way in. Not double jointed, which is okay for a figure this dainty. Comes out to a little past 90. So articulation's not a huge deal. I think that's actually fine. But the flesh tone on the main body is very different from the head sculpt. Not just in terms of the color, like up here, it's much more, well, just fleshy. Down here, it's almost this olive tan or something like that. But on top of that, it's very, very glossy and looks very cheap compared to the rest of the materials that we have here. So that kind of takes you out of it when you notice just how sweaty his elbows are. It doesn't look quite right, but I'll probably get some dull coat, take that down, and it'll look a little better. Might even just repaint them completely, but I'll think about it. It's also got some van bracers, not done in that same pleather that we've been seeing, like on these shoulder accents, on that quote-unquote chainmail, that mock chainmail. But yeah, they look nice. Looks like they could take a few blows from a blade before ripping apart ultimately. As for the hands actually look a little bit better than the arms. They don't have that gloss, but they're the same flesh tone as the arms, but not really the head. Yeah, you can see it's a lot darker. So that there's kind of a disconnect there. I suspect if you wanted to, you could just go online and get one of those, there's a whole bunch of blank bodies that you can customize to be whoever you wanted to. If you were very careful about it, you could probably take this dude's gear completely off and drop everything, including the head sculpt, on a better base body with better articulation, better flesh tone, better anatomy. I don't know. I'm not totally sure what's going on under here, but I don't plan on removing all the clothing at all because I don't think I'm going to remember how to put it back on. Going on down, you have more of those brown tassels coming down here. These little rivets here are painted in gold, but not metal. So far, I'm not seeing any metal details yet, as was mentioned before. Over here, looks like you could be carrying magazines in there, but no, it's just a few straps hanging down. More stylistic. I doubt there's a practical purpose to it. Got a whole lot more of them here on the back. With a better look at the belt, actually. And, whoa, the belt's actually really stiff, so keep that in mind. Not as pleathery as everything else. It's a solid plastic, but I really like those star or sun looking sculpted details in the gold. I think that's very pretty. I'm trying to see where that belt could be popped apart. Probably Over here. Oh, that's an actual functioning belt. That's actually going through the buckle. So if you wanted to take this guy's garments off and then put it on a different body, you probably want to start here. So bear that in mind. Moving on down, bear that in mind. And he's a standard bear. That's funny. If only he was wearing a bear on his head, but it's going to be a lion. But we'll sneak peek into accessories later. But down here we have a red skirt or kama or whatever you want to call it. I suspect it's all the same piece as the red sleeves and the red collar, so it's probably just the undergarments below all the brown and black and gold that we have over here. Down to the legs, you don't have to worry as much about the flesh problem because everything is covered. You have some brown pants, which are done in a pretty nice cloth. I actually like this material quite a bit. I think it's the same material as what we get on the red undergarments there. Nice, movable, flexible material. I do like that. Down here on the shin guards, this is what I suspected to be metal, but I'm not seeing any. Maybe I read something wrong on the product description, but yeah, if they simply did some die-cast elements throughout this figure, including weaponry and stuff, wow, this guy would be like taken above and beyond. That would be next level stuff, but that's okay. And then down here, of course, you have the trademark Roman sandals, which are I can't tell if they're sloppily painted or if they're implying some dirt in there. I guess whatever your imagination desires, but you could see that there is some brown that's bleeding in between those little, I don't know, brackets of the sandals, then going into the flesh that's painted in there. But I think that's meant to be dirt. It's a different shade of brown than the rest of the sandals, so that's probably intentional. Then again, if that's what they wanted to do, you should have put some more on the toes. Like, you see a little bit in between, but it should be on top of the toes as well. So, yeah, a few little customizing opportunities with this figure. But overall, he looks great. I mean, he has really good presence, don't get me wrong. It's just there's some little tiny things in there that I think take away from the $100 price point. But all that being said, maybe my mind will change when we look at accessories. Here are all of his other accessories that you can pop on, pop off, whatever it is you want. So let's start off over here with the figure stand. Again, this is the exact same basic stand that came with the Ice Wolf, and I suspect all other figures in the COO Model Toys catalog. But all you gotta do is prop up this little arm over here. Not really an arm, it's not even articulated or anything, but it's kind of just a tube with this wiring crotch hold over here, and you should be able to pull this up for taller figures or lower it if they're in a crouching stance. So pretty basic stuff, but it does the job. Can't complain about a figure stand. Next up we have, I guess we'll go from back to front, we have his I'm a very important man stick. I don't know what this thing is called, but it is very beautifully done. You see that we have all these golden shapes on it. So at the top you have an eagle or a falcon on top of what seems to be a scribe or scroll, I'm not sure, and a moon, and a sun, some sort of crest with wheat on it. And down here, Spike, I don't know. I don't think this thing's meant to be a weapon at all. It's just meant to look good as you're marching around the Colosseum or something like that. Again, if you know what this thing is or what it symbolizes, then let me know in detail in the comments, because I am genuinely curious. I think one thing that sets this figure apart from, say, a Mythic Legions figure is Mythic Legions are meant to be very stylized, but it seems like this figure overall, from what I can tell, is meant to be a lot more historically accurate. Their proportions all seem pretty rather human. The accessories aren't romanticized. They don't have any crazy curves or extra blades or studs or anything. Everything here feels very grounded in reality, so I appreciate that. That's what makes this figure a little bit more special. Next thing we have here, and as soon as I pick this up, I'm like, oh, there's a medal, and it's this sword over here, which, again, I'm tempted to call the Gladius, but I believe the Gladius is exclusive to the Gladiators. I'm not sure about that. Again, let me know. I just didn't get the history classes that I wanted in college or high school. But here we have the sheath, along with a leather strap over here, or pleather, I don't really know. I hope that thing doesn't break, because it is quite small, so I'm going to be careful with that. But that will allow it to sling over his shoulder. We will try that out a bit later. But all that being said, check out the really great details here. Let's actually pop in. You can see how ornate all these little golden details on the sheath are. Like, there's some shells over here, which is really nice. Up here, you have like these little prongs coming off. I'm trying to move this little strap out of the way. Ignore the paint on my fingers. Was I painting something in black lately? Oh yeah, I did. That's right. Okay, I make so much shit these days, I forgot what I'm doing. Then up here, get a little confused here towards this golden part of the main blade itself. It looks like it's sculpted to be wood, but it's painted in gold, so I don't know what's going on there. Same up here, but maybe that's what they did back then. I don't know. And nice looking grip here for his fingers. As for the blade itself, let's check that out. Here it is. And let's get things to focus a bit. And this seems to maybe be die-cast. Like, it doesn't feel cold. That's the thing that I usually search for die-cast elements. But it is definitely heavier than it looks. So it might be. Like, it's probably the bare minimum when qualifying for a metal element. But yeah, weight-wise, it definitely seems to be heavier. So I think this might be a metal of some sort, but probably the cheapest possible metal that would qualify. But the blade looks good. Nice serrated edges over here. Good silver paint application. Again, I don't think that's like an actual metal standing out there, which would have made this thing look a lot better. And we're going to look at the grip, so not a whole lot else to talk about there. We'll sling this over his shoulder a little bit later, but yeah, it's no issue to pop in and out. There's no friction or anything, so you don't have to worry about anything breaking, as certain sheaths have in the past, for me at least. Next up, we have a shield, which looks really good as well. Done in a nice weathered red with this very pale mustard yellow of some sort. Also got some gunmetal accents, especially in the center here. Flipping it around, I'm not sure how easy or difficult it's going to be to give it to him, but this looks accurate to how a shield would have been equipped. You have almost this additional vambracer, which would go around the arm. I'm wondering if we'll need to remove one of the ones he's wearing already in order for this to work, unless it's just wide enough, but we'll test that out. Then you have a grip over here. So if you're familiar with McFarlane-style shields, it's kind of similar to what they do over there, but this one has like a grip at the end, which I do like. That's pretty neat, so digging that a lot. Then, actually, we'll save the lion for last. The next thing we have here is some alternate hands. By default, he comes with, actually, let's pull him back in here, a grip on his right and a fist on his left. As for his other hands, looks like we have two grips, and yeah, these are really small. You can tell that they are smaller than probably even a Marvel Legends. Most import figures are, like if you're familiar with Mafex, SH Figuarts, they're usually by default just a little bit smaller than your 6-inch fare, so that's kind of to be expected. But again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with warriors being like different heights and statures. I'm not too bugged by that when I line them all together on my shelf. Next up, we have two fists, which is odd because... oh, wait a minute. I'm wrong. Sorry. Let me bring in this other guy. He comes defaulted with two grips. I don't know why they thought that was a fist. My brain's going places. I've also been working today. Anyways, last thing we have here is his helmet and his lion headdress, which came out exactly like this from the package, all wrapped up. You gotta unravel it and then, well, dress it over his head. And from what I've seen, it looks like you just gotta pull everything apart. I'm gonna be a little careful here. It's kind of clingy. It kind of clings to itself. But once you unfold everything... Oh, yeah. That looks really nice. That's beautiful, actually. It feels very realistic. Looks very good, too. It just has a very authentic look to it, especially when you look at the face of the lion. I mean, you feel kind of bad for it, but again, that's modern standards. But back then, they'll run around and kill anything and put it on their head. That's just what the Romans did. And then down here, you actually have his helmet, which is a little bit flexible, so that's probably good. That will make it compatible with any alternate head sculpts that you might have in mind. Going back to the lion, though, you can make out a whole other profile to enjoy with this figure, aside from the main head sculpt. You have the eyes... You got the nose here, you got the teeth. Everything here is just really well proportioned, and it sells it. They could have made this look really cheap. It's not. It looks really good. You also have the mane in the back, and there's definitely some fraying. There's some hairs that kind of want to leave, so I might take a little brush to it. I actually took a brush to my Trick or Treat Studios Mogwai Mohawk, and that works wonders, so I might do the same thing here. Probably not too much, because there's less hair to work with, and it's a much stiffer hair, whatever they went with. But it looks fantastic, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's like to get this guy equipped. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and do it. We could probably test out every single weapon that he has. I guess we will start out with this little tiny dagger that he's got sheathed, and I don't know why this would not fit into his hand. Actually, let's test the malleability before we go any further. Yeah, it is flexible, but when you bend it a little far, then it kind of pops right out of the joint there. But yeah, if you want him holding a little tiny knife in case of emergencies, or he wants to open a box for an unboxing video, then you can definitely do that. But let's pop that out and slide that back in where it was before. Now I think the next thing to do is get his Gladius. I'm going to keep calling it that because that's what I think it is, though I could be wrong. Let's stretch this out. It's very, very coily, actually. It's kind of annoying, but if we stretch it out, you got to flip it a little bit and something like that. Yeah, and I think you just want to get this over his head. Well, past the arm first, because I articulated it already, and I'm too lazy to reset it. But yeah, you just get that over his shoulder, sing it right there, and hey, that looks pretty good. You kind of need to pop it past the chainmail a little bit, depending on where you want that to kind of post and sling. Post and sling. That sounds like a weird craft store that would shut down in 2 months. But anyways, yeah, he holds that just fine. Speaking of hold, let's also test out how he holds the blade itself. I know we just looked at the little dagger, but if you want him, all right, fine. Probably easier to pop out the hands, then pop in the accessories, and then pop the hand back on. But yeah, let's stretch it out. And yeah, they're definitely flexible, and they could definitely hold stuff. It's just they're so tiny. Ironically enough, you need your really big fingers to peel your way in there and kind of pull things apart as you go. But yeah, you definitely hold the sword, and he looks ready for combat. That looks awesome. Really good. But if you want him looking a little bit more ceremonial, then we can put the blade away, back into the sheath, like so. Again, no friction at all. And you could kind of hear that clink as it was going in. So that leads me to believe it probably is metal, but enough of that debate. Next thing we will do is, I guess we can try out the shield. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I think, yeah, you're going to want to remove the hand first. And then I do think we can keep the van bracer. And, yeah, it's going to be odd. I think we can get this hand over the grip first, and then we can kind of port this together. Jeez, it's tough, though. Give me a minute here. Okay, hear me out. I was not able to get the hand gripping and the wrist pegged in at the same time, so what I wound up doing was just kind of squishing the hand underneath the grip, and it kind of just stayed there. And then I was able to plug in the arm. So he's not actually gripping it, but it seems to be staying in. So that's nice. And now you can look to the side, and it's aesthetically a great figure. It's just a little bit tedious putting everything together. Now, despite all my hard work, I am going to pop that out so we can look at the rest of the accessories. But once again, you're going to need to dislocate the hand. Probably just shake that out here. There we go. And then we can pour that back in. So, yeah, that shield looks great, but wow, it's kind of a bother to get on him. Anyhow, we can also get him equipped with the headdress, which I'm sure is really easy. You just slide that on. Good thing that the helmet is flexible. And, oh, wow, clicks right in, almost as if they belong together, which is great. So that's really cool. And you're supposed to sling these corners up front. And, yeah, this is the way that you're going to want to display this guy. I mean, if you don't like the line, then don't get the figure. I mean, that's easily the centerpiece of this whole thing. But if you want this guy looking regal as shit, then you can give him his big old man stick. I don't know what else to call it. But let's slot that into his hand here. There goes the hand, popping out of the wrist again. That's not the worst thing, honestly. I mean, I prefer things that that tend to pop off rather than things that are too stiff and won't move at all. So I feel a little better than that. Oh, and my stupid ass. I tried just standing it up right on the table when we have a whole dedicated figure stand to give to him. Now, it looks like this is going to be a case of us needing to slot this under the skirt. So just level that down, push the stand down a bit, and let's see how this dude looks. Move him to the side a bit, push it back, and yeah, he looks pretty damn fantastic. I mean, he's lacking a shield, of course, but he looks great. The one thing I did notice that was different from the packaging compared to this figure, really small detail, not a big deal though, is you'll see he has this little tiny tie that goes around the two corners of the lion headdress, but I did not see anything of the sort in the packaging. But I guess if you really wanted that look, where you have these two corners tied up to the front, which I'm tempted to do, maybe, Then you could probably just custom make one. I don't think it would be that difficult. Oh, and the last thing we can do is try a hand swap. I really don't see any world where this would be difficult because, first of all, they're so easy to remove. There we go. And then we can give them an open hand. Maybe just getting an open hand would be better for the shield. We could try that out as well. But, oh, see, the Van Bracers are a separate piece. You can remove them if you want. But let's try grabbing around there. And the joint's being a little finicky. There we go. Yeah, it takes some patience, but you can get the alternate hands going through as you need. Now, let's try getting the shield in there, too. Like, I guess this hand would probably just squeeze right through and pop in. You know what? That's what I'm doing from now on. Screw that gripping hand. That is so much better. So now, you get back on the stand eventually. Hold on a minute. Get the crotch hold. Pull him down a bit. Push down the bracket. Let's range the feet. We can line up the shield a little bit. Get his band staff off to the side. And there we go. Definitely a very good looking figure, but it's when you're interacting with him that things get a little bit frustrating. But that being said, now they got everything on him, let's go through the effort of taking everything off so we can look at articulation. Actually, something to be aware of, I put on the helmet and the headdress, and they don't want to leave him. They don't want to come off the head sculpt. And you know what? Everything's so well aligned, I don't want to mess with anything, so I'm just going to leave that on. But, I mean, it's not going to hinder head articulation much at all. The helmet's flexible. There's a lot of space between the helmet and the rest of the body. And, of course, the whole lion portion is cloth, so that's not going to be a problem when looking at articulation. So anyways, all that being said, let's get started. We got some down. You can see the helmet kind of drifting over his eyes there, so I guess I just loosened it up, but regardless. And he got some up. Again, it's a little hard to gauge because he got so many different pieces of armor and cloth on him. A little bit of tilt, not a ton, but it's in there. I don't know what the neck situation is, if it's just a ball joint, or if there's a dumbbell in there, or if there's a whole separate moving neck piece. I'm not sure, but I'm not willing to pull this guy apart, so I apologize for that. As for the arms, I actually haven't moved anything at the shoulders at all, but let's see. He can... Whew. Oh, you hear that? It's kind of got to click out of place. There's a stiffness in there, but it does look like it's fully articulated, so you can do your swivels. Oh, I don't like that clicking, though. That's scary. Then you can bend out, I'd suspect, to 90? Not really. Again, I feel like you need to click a joint out of place in order to accomplish that. So, I don't know. Maybe you want to dump this whole body in hot water after removing the clothes or something like that. But, yeah, I don't know what's going on down there, so I'm a little afraid to move it any further. But you do have some swivel in the elbow. We have a little bit past 90 as well when you articulate it. As for the wrists, they're kind of McFarlane style, so you got your in, out, up, down, whatever it is you want. And their Van Bracers aren't going to get in the way because they go deep enough down the arm, so it won't impede any articulation there. As for the torso, again, I don't know what's going on, so let's just do a tilt forward, combined with the waist and everything. That's very good. And very good back. Some tilt. And your swivel, I could definitely feel a swivel right about here. And it kind of, check that out, there's a little bit of a spring in there. You kind of, boing, it just bounces back. So that's interesting. I think there's a swivel right here too. So here you got a springy ball joint. Then here I think you have an actual tangible swivel. So keep that in mind. Down to the legs, I don't know. They may or may not be double jointed, but I'm not going to go any further than that. And frankly, I don't think you need it for an armored figure like this. Down to the ankles, let's see. We have our swivel. We have a touchback. Basically nothing forward because of the shin armor. But do we have rocker? Barely rocker. And I think these are just a ball joint. I don't think there was any actual hinge in there. But if there is, you could barely make use of it because it's so buried under the shin guard. I mean, we could try pushing the guard up, and maybe that'll improve it. No, but I do think that is a ball joint in there. Now as my fridge starts to get extra noisy again during one of my reviews, let's do some size comparisons. So first of all, here is the COO model I snow capped. Ice Wolf variant. I forget what this thing's called. It has like 2 different names on its page, but this is also from COO Model, and this is the first figure we reviewed from the brand. And as you can see, I have highly repainted him. He has his deluxe stand. Let me remove him from the stand so we can do a little bit of a height comparison. He's obviously very crouched down, so I'm just going to extend him straight up. I don't have his soft goods anymore. Well, I do have them. They're just kind of in a bin. They're just not part of this figure anymore because I love the body sculpt so much. But you can get it next to our Roman over here. And obviously he's taller, and that's what you'd expect. But it works. I think it's actually very successful. I mean, you got a mythical creature over here, and you got a standard human. As for a human from a different line, we have the Gladiator standard release from Mythic Legions. He's been repainted, but there's been no extra parts added to him, so there's no reason why he'd be taller or shorter, so that's a stock height. And he is definitely taller and more buff than this dude over here, because once again, Mythic Legions are more stylized. But I'm actually okay with that. Once again, you have people of different body types, heights. This dude is wearing a big, giant helmet on here, which gives him a little bit more height against this guy, but then again, he's wearing a lion's head, so maybe it should be about the same. But yeah, it feels a little bit off, but I'm personally not bugged by it, but it's something that you should definitely want to consider. But as for some figures that are a little bit closer to the 6-inch scale, a bit more traditional, we have, of course, the Star Wars Black Series Quash. And in this case, they actually level up really good. So if you want him next to a Hasbro, Marvel Legends, or Star Wars Black Series, that works out very well. But of course, if you want him next to a traditional little guy, then we also have Mechamuck!
Wow, wow, wow! Everyone with the sword, just chill out! This new guy's from COO Model. We can't trust him. We who are about to die salute you. Bring it on. High. Sorry, you're gonna charge at him, or? Not enough articulation.
So here we are at Final Thoughts, and pretty much what I said about the COO Model Wolf some months ago can also be said about this Roman bearer over here. Again, I don't know what a bearer is. I guess anyone who holds a giant magnificent man staff over here. Basically what I can say is it is an art piece figure. That's probably why it's priced the way that it is. It's not meant to be in any crazy poses. This is as dynamic as I was able to get him. So if you want him sporting against like a Mythic Legions, like the Gladiator we had to look at, he's probably going to feel a little bit out of place pose-wise, but in terms of looks, he is stellar. He looks fantastic. I think that's what I'm starting to pick up about the line from anything from COO Model that I've reviewed anyways, just the 2 figures. They both look fantastic. They're beautiful to look at or great to the eye. However, they're overpriced in that everything's hand done. And all the materials are very premium. You definitely feel it with this figure. I feel like they could have taken it a little further in certain aspects. But what we get is an outstanding looking, historically accurate Roman dude, and he looks really cool. So if you just want him standing around your Mythic Legions collection or whatever warriors you have, like I think Joy Toy, they also do some really cool Roman style figures. Haven't touched on those before, but I'll think about getting them one day. They're definitely cheaper, so worth considering. Then yeah, he'll blend into any line just fine. Again, he might be a little shorter compared to Mythic Legions, but he lines up just right with Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series for sure. So it's going to be a little bit of a test run because, again, it's an import line. It's a little unique. You're going to have to kind of drop it next to your figures before knowing whether or not he will be the height that you want him to be at. For me, personally, I don't mind because people have different body shapes. This guy could be shorter. He could be a little bit more lanky. So I'm totally good with it. For the figures I have, he works fine with them. As for the materials, everything feels really good. It looks like if there are any metal elements, it's at least the sword. I'm not sure if there are more in here, though I could be wrong, but everything else feels fantastic. Aside from it being very light, I really like how they accomplished the chainmail sort of thing that they did with that meshy cloth on the front. I like how the helmet is flexible, so that way you can take the helmet on or off. I mean, I struggled with the off part, but I mean, if you articulate the head down, it kind of popped down on the head, and then I think you'd have a little bit of leverage there. But I mean, with the lion head off, it's not nearly as interesting of a figure, so I'm keeping that thing on for sure. And look at that profile. I mean, with just the lion head on there, it's so cool. I don't like how shiny the flesh tone is on the arms compared to the face. Like, I get it, it's a base body, they want to reuse it for different figures, but at least get the skin tones to match, at least get a dull tone on the flesh tone, especially for a $100 price point. But that being said, do I think it's worth getting at $100? Even after reviewing it, no, definitely not. I get it, it's an art piece, but it's still a lot of money for a guy that's so tiny. But discounted, I could swallow that. I think he comes with a lot of stuff. Once again, he's priced at the same price as a deluxe Mythic Legions that, like comes with alternate hands, weapons, portraits, stuff like that. So I think this guy's solid. I'm very happy with this figure. I have a few complaints, but nothing that can't be fixed necessarily. He's limited articulation, but I understand that. He's more of an art piece than a straight-up action figure. He's not supposed to be super posable. And I don't want to pose him any further than this. I'd be afraid of breaking something or messing with the soft goods, so that's as far as I'll go. But overall, really cool figure. Definitely an acquired taste, though. I recommend it, as long as you're aware of the pitfalls and its strengths, because it's definitely not a standard, usual, typical figure. There's some unique little nuances to it that you need to get used to before you can really appreciate it. And if you can, then I think you'll have a hell of a time with it. He is cool to pose up and get him with the different weapons and get him on the shelf with figures from different lines. And that being said, he's a dude with a lion on his head, and no other figure has that, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, that's it for this review. I hope it was helpful, especially since there's 2 other reviews online right now of this figure. So if you enjoyed it and found it helpful, then please, as per usual, be sure to like, comment,
ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals, and subscribe.
Yeah, hi, Mechabug here. If you want to see more from Pod Guy, then please be sure to check out the Pod Plays channel down in the description for some Let's Plays. And if you want to support the channel a bit too, you also got the Pod Patreon, which is down in the description as well. See you around, folks!
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.